I want to share with you a couple of thoughts today on Easter. It's not the traditional message that I want to share with you today, the story of Easter and so forth. I think for the most part, most of us understand it. Last week we started on a journey looking at toxic people and those toxic relationships and personalities, and we started to look and ask the question, well, how did Jesus deal with these? How did Jesus deal with all the different toxic people, that he encountered in his life and so forth? What did Jesus do in order to combat this? Well, we're going to continue in this series today because I think it's important, especially as we celebrate Easter, to understand that Jesus had to not only suffer and die, but part of the suffering and part of the things that were fighting against him and what he was doing here in the world was people and their own toxic misunderstandings and responses to the things that Jesus was doing and the things that Jesus was teaching. It's that simple. Well, we're going to take a look at another type of a toxic person today, and that is a person that is critical, and especially one that's maybe overly critical. When was the last time that you experienced someone that you were sitting next to and they took the time to maybe lean over, and to whisper in your ear, something critical about, a person that maybe you guys were watching or, a show that was going on or whatever. When was the last time that somebody went out of their way to whisper or to say some toxic stuff and put it in your mind and therefore, into your thoughts and into your heart? When was the last time that you worked for somebody maybe that was a toxic type of a boss? The only time you ever heard from them was when something was going wrong. You never heard, well, good job, or, hey, that was great work you did last week, or anything of that nature. Instead, all you hear was the stuff about what's going wrong. What are you unhappy about now? If you think about it, churches are an easy target, for critical people. There's too much video being played during the service, or there's not enough. The people are too demanding, or they're not demanding, or they don't follow through, or, I'm not hearing the things preached about that I want to hear about. Instead, I'm hearing all this other stuff, or, we're using the wrong version of the Bible for scripture. We're focusing too much on things outside the church and not things inside the church. There's all kinds of things that people can be critical about, especially in church and especially as a Christian, as someone that is growing in my relationship with Christ. It's just part of the battle. Jesus fought it. The disciples fought it. People fight it all the time, and that's just part of the deal. I want to look at what Jesus did and didn't do, as well as the disciples, as they responded to the critics and the criticisms and all the different types of, critical toxicity that there is out there. What did Jesus do? Well, one of the things that Jesus didn't do was respond sometimes. Sometimes the thing to do is just to not respond. Remember this, just because somebody is critical of you doesn't mean that you are obligated to respond. It doesn't mean that you have to. In 1 Peter, I'm going to read a couple of scriptures for you this morning. In 1 Peter 2, we read these words. When they hurled insults at him, and the him meaning Jesus, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. Jesus put up with tons of critical people in his day. People criticized him all the time for what he was doing and saying and where he was going and who he was visiting. People, they criticized him and said that he was a friend of sinners. And they said that he was, drunk sometimes, or they said he was a lunatic, or they disagreed and said that all kinds of negative responses he had to fend off. Not responding isn't the same as pretending something didn't happen. Not responding is simply letting it go and trusting yourself, your feelings, your emotions, your path in life, and trusting everything to the one that we have faith in who provides for us constantly, and it's God. That's what sometimes not responding to somebody simply means, is I lay it in God's hands. Tough Questions for God is a teaching ministry of the Rosebush United Methodist Church, where we challenge our faith with some of the most difficult issues. Tough Questions for God is available on Facebook Live, Sundays at 11:30 a.m., or go on our website at toughquestionsforgod.org and just follow the links on the homepage for YouTube or via podcast. Thanks for joining, and don't forget to like and share. God bless.